Hello everyone, this is Electric Circuit Lab Experiment 3. We are going to test superposition theorem. I'm starting with part 1. I constructed the circuit shown in figure 3.2. Let me show you. The resistor values are for R1 1.17 kilo ohms, for R2 2.17 kilo ohms, for R3 3.21 kilo ohms. Now I will apply E1 10 volts to the circuit as in the figure. Then I need to measure current through resistors. First, I will start with I1. So I need to disconnect this terminal and connect the positive terminal of the multimeter. Then I will connect output of the multimeter to this point. So I read 4 milliamps. Then I will measure I2. For measuring I2, I need to I can disconnect this part, connect the multimeter, then output of the multimeter must be at this point, the ground. Let me check, is it correct? Oh, okay, now I fixed the problem. Okay, then I read 1.6 milliamps. I wrote down. Then I will measure I3. Again, I connect in series with the third resistor. Okay, it's 2.4 milliamps. So for part B, I change my configuration. Now I apply 15 volts as in figure 3.3. Then I will measure currents again. But I must be careful about the direction of the currents. So I1 in figure shown as counterclockwise. So it means I have to measure accordingly. So I put the positive input of the multimeter here. Then the COM port must be connected to ground. Okay, I read 3.6 milliamps. I wrote down it, then I will measure I2. Let me disconnect first. Okay, now I measure I2 is 1.3 milliamps. 1.3 milliamps. Then I measure I3. It's shown from voltage source to R3, so I disconnect the voltage source and connect it with positive terminal of the multimeter, and the output of the multimeter must be connected to R3. So I read 4.9 milliamps. Okay, we completed A and B parts. In part C, we need to consider both voltage sources. For part C, we apply both voltage sources. We have a common ground. I apply 10 volts and 15 volts as in before, but now they are together. Now we will see both effects. I'm going to measure again currents through resistors. So for I1, let me measure. Okay, this is 0.3 milliamps. But I have to say the direction. It's clockwise. So I mark the direction. Okay, I'm going to measure R2. I connect input here and output of the multimeter to the R2. It will work. Yeah, there is a disconnection. Okay. It's 2.2 milliamps. The direction is clockwise or to the ground. And I continue with measuring I3. Okay, there is a mistake here. I measured the I2 again and it's 2.9. One of the pins just disconnected the circuit. Then I'm going to measure I3. I do this connecting the positive side of multimeter to the 15 volt voltage source and the negative side of the multimeter to the R3. No, it's not that. Okay, for R3 the current 2.5 milliamps. So this is the end of the first part. Now we'll check the superposition theorem for voltages. Okay, in part 2, first I built the circuits on figure 3.5. I will connect the 8 volt voltage source later, but let me show you the circuit. The R1 is 1.17 kilo ohms, R2 is 4.66 kilo ohms, R3 is 2.17 kilo ohms. Then I will apply the 8 volts to the circuit. Then I will measure voltages on resistors. Let me check. Okay. I set my multimeter for voltage reading. For part A, I read voltages, but I must careful about the polarities. So the positive probe must be here, negative is here, and I read 3.53 volts. For R2, positive side is here, negative is here, and it's 4.45. And for R3, positive here, negative here. Yeah, of course it must be the same, they are in parallel. 4.45. For part B, I change my configuration as in figure 3.6. Then I connect the 20 volts voltage source. Now R1 and R2 are parallel. Then I will measure V1, V2, V3 again. So for R1, which is R1 by the way, this one. V1 is 2.82 volts. No, actually this is V1 though. This is correct. For V2, I must connect here. Okay, for V2 I read 17.22 volts. So V3, it must be the same with V1, but let's see. .81. So they're not the same. Okay, now I will connect the other voltage source. Then we will see their effect together. For part C, now we connected both voltage sources as in figure 3.4. Now I will measure voltages again, V1, V2 and V3. And I start with V1. It is 0.72. Now I will measure V2. Okay. Now I read minus 12.04. Okay. So I want to mark the polarity that I measure. It is important. In your report, you must consider the polarizations. Now I will measure V3, but I disconnect the wrong probe. So it must be like this. Okay. Now for V3 I read 7.26 volts. Then I mark my polarity. Must be like this. And okay. This is the end of the third experiment. Thank you for listening.